There's a guy named Randy Hebert, Lieutenant Colonel, hero, American patriot. This is a guy who should be the Commandant of the Marine Corps, Krulak. I'm talking to you, I'm talking to Al Gray, I'm talking to you, Carl Mundy. You all are adolescent, immature. I call you twerps. You're liars, you cheat, you steal, you kill. You're beneath the contempt of any of your wives. They are scared to death. Why do you do this to your wives, guys? Look at that tape of Randy Hebert. I knew Chesty Puller, and this is a strong, wonderful guy. I knew his wife, Virginia Mack. I knew a real Marine. You can't say that you knew them because you didn't. I did. Randy Hebert sat. He could hardly talk. He was leading a platoon into Iraq. His wife was sitting to his left. His wonderful father was sitting to his right. And he said that his colonel, he's a lieutenant colonel at that time, I believe he was a lieutenant colonel, he said, my colonel ordered me, he said, all of our registers were saying, this is danger, there are chemicals, biologicals everywhere. I was told, and I was, followed orders, and he was having a hard time talking. His wife was, this is a young guy. His wife was having to interpret for him. He was crying. He'd been turned on by you guys. He said, on those canisters, on those boxes were American flags. Those were American walking into that killed me, that you, Gray, and you, Scrowcroft, and you, McFarlane, and you guys knew. You, Ed Wilson, best friend of my husband. You all sold to Saddam Hussein. And not only that, I talked to the man who trained the woman who was sent over from Iraq to learn how to build the biologicals and chemicals, the plants. She was trained here in the United States, and you all know that. And Randy Hebert's testimony says everything that I could say 1,000,000 times better, because this is a man who's a real man, unlike the generals, unlike the colonels. This is a real hero. I don't know, and I hope and I pray to God that he is. Because this is the man who should take over our Marine Corps, or his wife. That's why they don't have any women in special operations. Because that's why they don't have any African Americans. They're too honest. They're too strongly Christian. Now, the only guy I know who is involved is a homosexual, and his buddy is an Israeli agent, and they are lovers. They're a pair. Now a colonel, and he is under the guidance of Ken Millis, members of the firm. There's nobody who doesn't know. In special operations, I would say, and I would put money in the bank on this, not one of them is not a party to this. It's not a... Once they get that bird, Colonel, that bird, they go through an initiation ceremony. This is not get them drunk. Dining in, shell back. He told me. But they get them really drunk. The guys who are that way do it. It's a group situation thing. And I was told by two colonels who said, it's normal, Kay. This is just what we do in battle, It's just what we do, Kay. They get drunk and they ejaculate. They beat each other off. It's awful. Now, I'm not God, and I'm not going to judge them and their souls. This is a well-oiled system. And when you've got the commandant well-known as a cherry Marine, bottom, they're the bottom. The Navy guys are on the top. Think about this, because Walter Chrysler in Norfolk. Each port has a hierarchy. Wealthy at the top. Walter Chrysler and Phil Hornthal. Everybody in Norfolk knows that. Where'd they meet? In the Navy. I was engaged to Jack Mace when I was at the Virginia Center for World Trade. He ran the Maritime Association, the Shipping Association. Always dealt with the labor union guys. Always all-male banquets. And I couldn't understand why, I was engaged and I couldn't even go to the 1,000-man banquet. Had a big argument about that. Rock Hudson, where did he meet his guy? Navy. Jim Neighbors, Navy. All of these guys, Navy. So they're tapped for whatever it is, acting, singing, The point is, I know that he was, someone told me that he was a friend of one of the guys in Norfolk. There was a ring, a VMI ring of men in Norfolk, and I knew they met once a month, and some of them were married, some of them weren't. But they were all Navy. They were Army, Navy. In other words, it was kind of a group of men in Norfolk. And then I found out that the organizations, like right now, the Al-Anon is run by homosexuals. The Better Business Bureau. The Community Fund, which is the, I forget what it's called now. I'm so old. I'm 55. It used to be called the Community Fund. That guy. Jack Mace, And I'm wondering which one is it? I mean, they all are, and the guys know it. So what's going on here? They know it. Old Dominion University, the Clyburn, intelligence family. He was well known. 2 reporters on the Virginian Pilot who do the very important columns and so forth. I mean, it's just, so I'm saying, who's making the decisions to do this? They're military. What is the reason behind it? Why do they keep the wives out of the loop? One example, I was the executive secretary for the Virginia Center for World Trade had a board of the most important, supposedly the most important leaders who were picked out by Jerome Weiner, Jerry Weiner. I was a shill for that. I had, done a lot of great things at Old Dominion. They wondered why I did it because they don't understand Christians. And he knew I was a worker, so they hired me to go over to the World Trade Center, the Virginia Port Authority. I had an office in there. And Jerome Weiner, what's interesting is Mary Clark Collab worked for him.
Okay.
The girl who had my job, who was a normal woman like me, because there were a few who were not so normal, like Bobby Bray. Not the Bobby Bray who ran the Port Authority, but another Bobby Bray. He was very nice, but he was a known homosexual who worked with Weiner. But his secretary was pushed out of a window. Now, it was all hushed up. Yeah, this was a young mother who had a baby who knew too much about his money laundering. I reported the money laundering that Book and Weiner. Now, this is a professor, head of international programs at Old Dominion University, Jerry Weiner, whose father was very high up in this Zionist group. Jerry Weiner was doing intelligence work in Algeria, in Morocco in particular. He organized this board that I was the secretary for. He was a very sick, mean guy. I mean, but Jack Mace was on the board, and there was a banker on the board. Gustavo, I love the guy. He was from Columbia. He was in Virginia National Bank, which is now Nations Bank. And, I didn't put him, because I had studied Latin American history under a wonderful Dr. Blossom. I knew a lot of stuff about Latin America and Nariño and how Panama became a part of our country, and now, I mean, I understand it was drugs and running things through and everything, but Gustavo was in charge of all the laundering that was going on in Virginia National Bank in the port. And where did he go after that? He went to Florida. And he introduced me to Ana Maria Quintero, whose brother was one of the big mobsters. I mean, the big, Colombian. I met Ana Maria Quintero. See, I don't forget some things like this. That's why they don't like me, because I imprint on wonderful foreign people. I want to know them. I want to send Christmas cards, and it's not very good to have somebody like a little magnet. I'm sort of like a Monica, people like that from different cultures, because I want to learn about them, because that's what Christ said. You go out and you minister to the people who are. He told the big guys, look, stop being bullies and cowards. Let the poor people into your church. Everybody, God gives us all a unique spirit. Our timing is different. Everybody's fingerprints are different. We have the right to read the gospel